I feel like I'm very like, but maybe that's just the way the chair is. Yep, I have it. Yeah.
All right. Thank you for coming and welcome to the Historic Preservation Commission meeting, January 9th, 2025. Pursuant to Section 13 of the Open Public Meetings Act, adequate notice of the time and place of this meeting was given by posting prominently on the official bulletin board in the municipal complex, 400 Witherspoon Street, a schedule of the regular meetings of the Princeton Historic Preservation Commission for the year 2025, which posting is to be maintained throughout the year, and by transmitting a copy of such schedule to the Princeton Packet, Town Topics, the Trenton Times, and Comcast Cable of New Jersey, and by filing a copy thereof with the Clerk of Princeton, New Jersey. Elizabeth, could you please take the roll?
I have my roll list today. Ms. Satterfield, just so you know that she's recused herself. Mr. Shatskin?
Here.
Ms. Howard? Here. Mr. Endersby?
I'm here too.
Ms. Friedman?
Here.
Mr. Shore?
Present.
Chairperson Capizzoli.
Here. Thanks, everyone, for coming today. We are continuing the application of Hillier Properties LLC, the preliminary final major site plan with variances, application for historic preservation plan review, and we can go into all the addresses, but it's a continuation from yesterday. There's a YouTube video. If you want to see it, it's still online. And as a courtesy, we're going to do a quick summary of what we all reviewed yesterday. So I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Hillier, and he's going to run through his presentation once again, just to refresh it for everyone. Thank you.
Good evening. I'm happy to do this again, and it'll be a shortened version for those who couldn't be here last night. So I'll just start going. Whoops, it's not running. Okay, there we go. This shows the four sets of properties that are involved in this project, and it just shows you where they are on Witherspoon Street. There are other properties that we own, but they're not part of this presentation. And these four properties we assembled over the last 10 years through a whole bunch of circumstances. This is the next one here? Yep. Okay, and so anyway, that's it. And what you see here on the lower picture is a three-foot collage. We took a camera, and every 3 feet, we took a picture of the street the way it looks today. And then we, in the upper line, you'll see the pieces of property as we drafted them as the way they look today. This is our basic goals, which is to provide housing at a reasonable cost for the missing middle, preserve the character and culture of the neighborhood, preserve the diversity in the population, provide housing that is in the scale of the neighborhood, and that's a very important thing in terms of the historic importance of the neighborhood, provide a sustainable and safe environment, provide housing for all ages so that we can have people in their 20s and people in their 70s there, increase the sense of community, and basically celebrate the history of the Black community within the context of the neighborhood. That was what we set out to do last night. This is, this is an interesting drawing. It was done in 1874, and they didn't have drones and they didn't have helicopters. And what you see here is, you can see the Nassau Hall and Witherspoon Street. I wish this, oh, there it is. There's Nassau Hall, and here's Witherspoon Street. It doesn't quite align with Nassau Hall the way it in fact does, but you have to give them a lot of credit. And what's interesting is back then, 1874, this was known as John Street, just as it is today known as John Street. And what's interesting about this one drawing is that you can see here, this is the neighborhood that we're talking about. And the rest of it is pretty much countryside. And here's the campus. And so this has always been part of the campus and part of the center of Princeton. There's Nassau Street. So, and I think I already mentioned John Street. This just shows you the historic densification, if you will, of the neighborhood. And you can see that except for the school that was built here, there's very little that was really of a major consequence. And here are our properties along here. These are the 4 properties that we're talking about. But you can see that the density over the 105 years, or 125 years, sorry, it was, here's our properties then, and you can see that they basically have stayed the same. This one, we got a little bit denser here, but generally they've been pretty much consistent in terms of their current density. This is just some pictures of buildings that were on Witherspoon Street. That's a house, and I want to point out one thing that we noticed and intend to follow through on. The shutters were real shutters on hinges, and not just decorative things screwed to the wall. And which is also a consistent thing, is they used solid shutters on the first floor and louvered shutters on the upper floor. This is Mary Moss Park, which is still there today, and it was rebuilt about 3 years ago, and our firm helped do that. And there's Mary Moss herself. And this was a swimming pool, you can see, with the kids all along it. Today, that's a bunch of sprays in a concrete thing, concrete platform, and it's a much safer environment, actually. Next slide. These are other houses on Witherspoon Street, and this is an interesting one. You'll see later on in the presentation that there was an Italianate tendency in the neighborhood to build buildings that were reminiscent of Italy, and this is one of them. And you can see it here. This is the original building. This became the second building, and then as time went on, that building changed from being Italianate to being more like Egyptian. And believe it or not, I'll take you back for a minute. This is the original Toto's building, which was expanded out, and it actually absorbed that porch.
It's actually the other way around, Bob.
Is it?
The one you showed before, it actually says to go back one.
Yes.
The one to the left was Toto's, and that doorway is still there, even though
Yeah.
very little of the rest.
So, and what you
I
see,
think that the Alchemist and Barrister is the building on the right.
this one here,
I think so.
that's good. I've been trying to figure out where that was.
Oh, yeah.
So that's good. And then this is a funeral home that was actually on Nassau Street, but it just shows you the type of buildings and the quality of them at the time. And that's part of what we want to bring back in the buildings that we're going to be doing. 184 Witherspoon Street was formerly the Witherspoon School for Colored Children. And Somebody told me last night that that was the wrong thing. It was supposed to be, but I think at this point it was the Witherspoon School for Colored Children. And that's what it looks like today, stuccoed over. And this is what it looked like originally. And this is the entire enrollment. And Shirley Satterfield's grandmother is somewhere in amongst the students here. And we believe that this prep school that was at the corner of Riverside Drive and Nassau Street, it was a prep school for boys, and it looked very similar in style to the what eventually became the school, and we're planning to actually name this the Satterfield, just as we named when we did the school on Quarry Street. We named it the Waxwood because it was Dr. Waxwood who was the last principal of that school before integration came. Now, whoops, I did something wrong there, sorry. What am I doing wrong here? Oh, there we go. The university gave us a $5,000 grant and a graduate student to study the styles that had been developed within this neighborhood at its time when it was really thriving. And it was very much of an Italianate styling that was going on. Well, I'll do it this way then. There's something wrong.
Just be careful not to touch.
Oh, okay. Am I okay now? All right. So anyway, this is the results of that graduate student's work. She worked in the office all alone because it was during the first year of COVID, and she did all this work by herself. And this is the type of thing that she got at is the nature of the plans, which were classic, and then the Italianate coloring, and then the late Victorian coloring. And she also discovered these books by Andrew Jackson Downing, and he was basically telling people how to design different houses in different styles, from country houses to Victorian. And then he also was giving them color schemes and details on cornices and that type of thing. It was very interesting. Now I'm going to take you through what is there today. These are all code issues that are in violation, and frankly, they cannot be fixed without major renovation of the existing buildings. You'll see there's a lot of low ceilings. The code today is a ceiling has to be at least 7'6" high, and we have a lot of violations of ceilings. Stairways have to be at least 36 feet wide, or 36 inches wide, and there are a lot of them that are only 30 or even 24 inches wide. So all of this is a collection of everything that's wrong and could not be fixed without major renovation. Now I'm taking you down into the basement of these buildings. You notice they have dirt floors, and they're very low, and they're literally dangerous and falling apart. And a lot of repair has been done to them, but look at the repair. The repair is all temporary. It's either jacks like this here, or it's things that have been thrown up. And look at the spacing, how tight it is, and that just shows how weakened these floor joists are above. And this is the corner of 148 Witherspoon Street, and it's one of the buildings that was stuccoed over, as most of them were on the street. And right here you see a corner board for the siding that we found is underneath that stucco. And that's classic. There's just so much that's been stuccoed, if you will. I'll stay away from that, I'm sorry. Okay. Now, we had a contractor go through and talk about things, and he found a lot wrong, and his recommendation was we should tear everything down and build it new from scratch. That's called reconstruction. And for those of you who don't know, the Williamsburg Village was actually a reconstruction done in 1937. And so it's 88 years old today, rather than the 300 or 400 years old that it should be. And that's because it was all torn down and went apart, and they came back and reconstructed it. Next slide is preservation standards and guidelines. And this is important because this is out of the Princeton Master Plan, but it's almost word for word what the National Park Service has done. And what we're doing, and the reason it's highlighted, is we're going to be working in the mode of the restoration here. Reconstruction is a depiction, as it says, by means of new construction, the form, features, and detailing of a non-surviving site. But what we're doing is we are, in fact, restoring things as opposed to preserving them. They're too far gone for that. Or rehabilitating them. They're too far gone for that. So we are literally picking them up and restoring them from scratch. We're also doing, and this is an important thing, we are detailing the windows. We've measured every single window on the site, and we're doing it in such a way that we can actually imitate these windows and have them be in thermopane, as opposed to what we have today, which is buildings or windows which are number one, single pane, number two, they often have screens or storm windows on the front of them. They have air conditioners hanging out of them, and they're just not well maintained at all. And we're going back and getting the original windows. When we did the waxwood, we actually went to New Hampshire and had a special window company make those windows exactly the way the historic pictures of the waxwood showed them when it was a school. And we're doing the same with the doors. These are drawings that we've done of the doors, and that's how we're going to get them also replicated. Now here I'll give you our design proposals. What you see above here is the existing condition, very similar to that first photo that I showed you. And I'll just point out your attention to up here above the church, there are 3 buildings in here, and then you come down and there's a large set of buildings right in here. This building here is actually, has been identified as non-contributing, which means it can be torn down, and we're tearing it down and replacing it with something that is much more authentic, related to the original building that was there. If you go to that building today and look at it very carefully, you can see the ghost of these windows is in the stucco. And so we're able to actually imitate exactly the way this building looks in our reconstruction of it. And then you come down here, and here's the stucco building, and there's what we're doing with the school, the original school for colored children on Witherspoon Street. So, and what you can see also, if you look carefully, is there's a mass here done in gray shingles, and there's a mass here done in gray shingles. And we're doing, these are the additions on the back of the existing buildings. And the same is true here, and the same is true here. This is 204, 206. And this is what they will look like. This building is currently a Bordego. The council has asked us to work out a plan whereby we keep all of the retail spaces as retail spaces. This is now a Bordego, and what we're going to do is turn it into a soccer store, which is down the street in our complex, and we're going to move the Bordego down there because she needs more room and she'll be closer to her market. And he wants more foot traffic at this, which is more prevalent at this end of Witherspoon Street. This is a site plan of it, and just to show you what we're doing, and I didn't bring a pad to sketch it, but what we're doing is basically taking the existing houses and we're taking the first floor and turning it into a studio apartment, and its access is from the porch. On the other hand, it has a back door that has access to a corridor, and that corridor has an elevator, fire escapes, modern stairways, garbage disposal, and a mail pickup. And so if I live on the first floor here, I'm in a duplex that's been modified into a studio, and I can have access to all of the amenities of that building. On the other hand, we build this corridor, and that corridor serves the second floor units. So the upper part of the duplex has become its own studio with its own amenity package. And this is, right here is where there's a corridor that joins all of these with the elevator, the stairway, the garbage disposal, and also the mail drop. Now, the other thing I want to point out is these are flat roofs, which keeps the buildings basically low, and we're going to have a maximum of solar collectors on the roof. We probably have a lot more than is shown here, but we're also putting in sod roofs, which have the advantage of taking half of any rainfall and basically using it to water the roof. But what's important is the roof retains half of the rainwater and evaporates it out later. So this becomes part of the storm management part. And here you can see, this is the first floor plan, how these houses are connected back into that corridor. And right now, there's a whole bunch of old garages here, one story covered with tar paper. We're removing all of those and giving this a lot more breathing room and parking. And incidentally, the code allows us now, the new zoning code allows us to have the first 5 parking spaces without any, the first 5 apartments without any parking, and then it's only 1 car per unit, which makes a lot of sense. Now, the second set of blocks is that over on the left is the Presbyterian Church, and this is a set of duplexes here, and at this point, which we're doing the same kind of subdivision internally, the same here. We have added a window here. We could never figure out why it was a blank window, but putting a window in here, matching all the others, makes sense in terms of completing the elevation of that building. Look at the blue building over here. I'm going to take you there now. That's what it looked like with an elegant stairway going up. And what we've done is turned it into a duplex here. And then at the bottom floor, there's a terrible apartment, which we're creating a new sunken entry plaza here into that unit. And off the bedroom, we're creating another small sunken area at this point. And then we're putting plantings along here. And where the little restaurant is now, we were proposing a much larger restaurant, which would be here, and another store or commercial property here. What's important about this building is this is the one we're building new from scratch, and this is exactly what the original building looked like in terms of its fenestration. But this building is now at grade. There's a terrible stairway there that has different height risers and is actually sitting in the right of way and is not handicap accessible, which all these buildings are supposed to be. And so we're taking it and dropping this building down to street level so you can walk in. To tell you the truth, we've had 2 people fall off the stairs here and into the street, and it's cost us $150,000 in just settlement with them from that fall. Over on Quarry Street, there's one house there which we're going to restore and make it look like this, and it has a parking area for 2 cars. And then you notice this here, that's something that Shirley Satterfield has been advocating, and it's basically the first community garden to be going in, and it's here. And what you're also looking at is that's the big building with 20 new units in it, and then there's another 5 or 6 units in the rest of it. So there's a total, I think, of about 25 units in there. Now, this is a site plan of that, and you can see you go in here, and there's the parking, and there's the little house on Quarry Street, and there's the community garden, and then here we have the usual array of solar collectors and sod roof, and then here we have a rooftop gathering spot for the occupants of that building. So they can have a party or a barbecue there. And this shows the floor plan and the way this duplex operates, and basically everything I've already told you. I'm trying to move along here. Now, this shows the buildings that we are tearing down or removing are all dotted, and what we're adding is shown in gray. And this is the school, which is being converted into apartments. It's been converted into apartments, and we're extending that with more apartments. And the reaction of people last night, did I do something wrong? Okay. Anyway, I want to point out one other thing, which is, I think I was okay.
Looks like a flood. Looks like a flood now.
Is it my cuff that's doing it, or what? Oh, you get a repeat of the whole thing, do you? I'm sorry about that. Okay, now I want to go back one here and explain something. You see this little single-family house here? That's what it looked like originally, and our intention is to put the porch back into its original condition. Right now, it's a glassed-in porch, and that's what we plan to do, and completely restore it. And it's an affordable unit for a family. You see the parking here. Based on our hearing last night, what we're doing is we're taking a bike stand that was there, and we're putting a bike stand here, closer to the sidewalk, and equidistant, frankly, to the entrance to this building, which is back underneath the parking area. And that lets these cars get up and out of sight, which is an important factor. Because this is a family-occupied building, we are stacking the 2 cars in there as opposed to it being a garage. And here you see what it looks like today and what it's going to look like in the end. And you notice how we've used a very quiet gray siding on here. And the next slide is showing you the side elevation. And there was a reaction last night to this looking, quote, like an office building. And so we're replacing all of these walls with landscaping, and we are breaking the scale of this down into the scale of the housing on the streets. And so we'll be back when we get to the planning board with a redesigned version of this. We're going to have windows that are scaled like this, and we're also going to break this down so that each one of these are more the scale of a house, and maybe we'll have a secondary material, maybe this actual siding here, as part of the breakdown of this into. This is going to look at the end of the day like 3 new houses, as opposed to the big building that it looks like today. And the windows are going to be scaled more like these windows. So we're working on that right now based on the input that we got last night. So come to the planning board and you'll see it. And this is the original building, the usual array of sod roof and the sod roof and the solar panels. And this is what the building looks like on the first floor plan. And what we've done here is we've torn this part down and are replacing it with 2 stairways and an elevator so that the people who come into the entrance here can take an elevator and get into this new building here, but they can also get off and get into the original building there, and the stairways also serve each of those buildings. Next slide. And here you see the addition that we're doing, and this is the original building. I have to tell you, these rooms in here, since it was an old school, it has 12-foot ceilings. And those 12-foot ceilings enable us to put in a brand new bathroom and then a sleeping loft on top of that bathroom. And yet it's still a 12-foot high ceiling, so the living part where the kitchen is and everything else feels very good, because even though it's very tiny, it's actually very tall. And you don't feel that at all. That 12-foot ceiling gives us great advantage. The 12-foot ceiling, incidentally, comes from it being originally a schoolhouse, and they didn't have air conditioning, and so they had to make the ceilings high just to get rid of the hot air. The other thing that we're doing here on all of the buildings is we're air conditioning them completely, and we're putting all new plumbing in and all new kitchens in. And so even though we're densifying it, we're enhancing it, and we're also putting sprinklers into all the buildings so that there will be a sufficient fire protection. This is the last project. This is 204 and 206 Witherspoon Street. And there was, right here on Lytle, there was a 4-foot addition that went out and was built into the right-of-way, so the sidewalk had to go around it. It's totally illegal. We've removed that, and we're restoring this building. And then behind it, we're building another addition done in a very quiet brick and a siding. This color toning here is to go with the original color toning of the house. And we're doing the same thing that I just described on the previous lot. We're breaking this down, and so it's going to look like 3 houses, and it's going to have all landscaping along here so that you won't be looking into the garage. But what we have down here is the appropriate number of parking spaces and an entrance that takes you in. And here you see the corridors serving this building. And the fact of the matter, look at this ridge and look at this here. If you go over across the street and look up, you will have a hard time even seeing the height of this building, and yet we're dropping the height of all these buildings by about 18 inches. And this is showing that unit. We don't have a sod roof on this one, but we have a lot of lawn that we're keeping. And you come in here, and there's a stairway that serves, it's a double stairway that serves the upper floors of the new addition. And then and it also serves the back of this building, which, as I said before, has its entrance on the porch. And this shows you what's new and what's old, and there's no demolition, or the only demolition here is, you see how the sidewalk came and went around that funny little addition, which actually had a bathroom and a kitchen in it, which means it was probably installed when we started to have indoor bathrooms. And that completes the presentation in a hurry, and it wasn't probably fast enough.
Oh, thank you so much. So we were discussing, deliberating our reaction to the proposal, and we had gotten comments from the board and from the public, but I want to give an opportunity, if there are people in the audience who didn't get a chance yesterday to speak, if anyone here today would like to speak at public comment, you're welcome to now. Oh, come on and we'll swear you in.
Yes, good evening. I'm Tony Vaselli.
Sorry, can you just raise your right hand? We have to swear you in. Do you swear that the testimony you're about to give this evening is the whole truth to the best of your knowledge?
I do.
Thank you.
I'd just like to make a favorable comment. I'm also a owner of some rental units and have to endure numerous inspections and revisions, usually for pretty mundane things. So I just find it unbelievable that these units he's talking about now are still rentable or occupied. They really should be knocked down. The amount of effort that he's putting into improving the property is fascinating, and I totally support it. And to me, trying to save them is going to be incredibly expensive. Every property that he's redesigned is 1,000 times nicer than what we have.
Mr. Fuseli, could you spell your last name, please?
V as in Victor, A-S-S-E-L-L-I.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yep.
Do you swear that the testimony you're about to give this evening is the whole truth to the best of your knowledge?
Yes, I do. Wilma Solomon. I live at 41 TR Place. This is a procedural question that I'm just ignorant about. I did review a report that Elizabeth Kim put together. I'm really not knowledgeable about this whole world at all, but I want to acknowledge that it seemed like a tremendous amount of work that just went into that proposal. And into your, I guess, review of it, and you had a number of recommendations. And I'm just curious, are those recommendations now going to be part of revising this project? Or what? And okay. And the other thing, and related to that, so whatever you decide now, so you send that on to the planning board, saying basically we approve this in part, but these are our recommendations for changes. Is that how is that what you do?
Yeah,
And,
so we come up with a memo that goes to the planning board with our recommendations, and then there's more deliberation at the planning board, there's more public comment, there's also more emphasis on traffic, on stormwater,
Right.
on garbage collection, on a lot of other logistical things. But, so we're primarily just looking at the impact on the historic fabric. of the-
Right, I understand that. I just wondered
Yeah.
whether your recommendations are
Yep.
will be part of
Yes,
that
so
going.
we're
Because they're beyond what the public spoke about. yesterday.
Yeah,
right?
so we
Right.
have, and we did discuss some of that yesterday, but we'll continue to
Okay.
discuss today.
All right. The other thing is, I know you're going to tell me this has nothing to do with the Historical Preservation Commission, I understand that. But I'm hoping that the consideration of the people who live there and people who will move in there is it's cognizant of the need to retain the character as a working class neighborhood, okay? And that people who are there now, which I'm not 100% sure exactly what's going to happen with them, but I have been assured that they will be taken care of in terms of where they will go when they have to leave these properties, and whether or not they get an opportunity to then have a preference in returning. I'm still not sure about that.
Again,
But,
the
you know.
planning board really is going to be the forum for
Right.
for that whole discussion
Right,
as well.
right. I know, I just, as a member, I just thought public comment is public comment.
Yeah.
But
Thank
thank
you.
you, I really appreciate it. I know you've been working on this for a very, very long time. Really acknowledge all the work and effort, the goodwill that is behind it. My dear friend, Sister Shirley, I know has been involved, and I'm looking forward to seeing the result, and that it truly does contribute to our community and allow people to remain here and also to move in and be an active part of the town. And there are people,
Yeah, yeah.
there are people here who live there now, I
Yep.
believe, who are.
Yeah, and I guess Mr. Hillier wants to address your comment.
Wilma, could you just spell your last name for me?
Solomon, just like
Okay, I
King.
wanted to make sure. Thank you.
Like the king.
Did I exceed my 3 minutes? Probably, but thank you for indulging me.
Sure, no problem. Bob, did you want to say anything?
No, I
Okay.
just wanted to say that we have met with each one of the current tenants and arranged a plan for them to go forward.
Oh, excellent. All right, well, that's good to know. That he has met with each of the tenants and arranged for a plan to go forward.
And we're providing funds to enable that.
And they are providing funds to enable that. Good to know. All right. Are there anyone else? Public comment? Come on up. Hi.
Hi,
Do you swear that the testimony you're about to give this evening is the whole truth to the best of your knowledge?
I do.
Thank you.
Thank you for allowing me to speak again today. I was hoping that you would have read the letter I submitted prior to the meeting last night, but I understand that was not the case. So I'm a little confused. I understand the commission may determine that my comments are not pertinent or part of your purview, but unless I make the comments, how would you know? So I've been told first to read the letter, or attempt to read the letter, but that I may not be allowed to. So I'm not sure. The comments do address aspects of affordable housing. I could skip over those comments if you don't think this is pertinent. But again, I'm trying to address the impact of this plan on the current residents of these homes as well as the neighborhood in general. And I think that given the mandate of this commission to protect the character, culture, and history of the neighborhood, that you should not ignore the impact that this is having on the people who make the character, the history, and the culture of this neighborhood. And they're right here. And they will tell you that they don't know what's going to happen. They haven't been told, that nothing has been explained. Would you care to hear them? Can they speak? They speak Spanish only, and I'm been interpreting for them, and I will be willing to do so.
If you want a couple minutes, also, I really encourage you to contact the planning board
I intend to do so.
Yeah, because again, what we're looking at is primarily the architectural impact, but if you want the kids to come on up and say a couple of things, that's fine.
He explicado que ustedes están aquí, que son vecinos, inquilinos, y que quieren dirigirse a la comisión.
Oh, can you raise your right hand? Do you swear that the testimony you're about to give this evening is the whole truth to the best of your knowledge?
Sí.
Yes. ¿Su nombre, por favor?
Could you provide his name and spell it?
Delcy es D-E-L space C-I-D. Delcy. Okay, solo mi preocupación es
My concern is
qué va a pasar con, más que todo con los niños de la escuela, cuánto tiempo nos van a dar cuando esto se apruebe.
what's going to happen with the children in school? How much time are we going to have once this is approved?
I think that is up to the applicant.
Creo que eso
So,
depende
I
del
mean,
solicitante.
maybe there could be another meeting
Quizá
between
puede que
the
haya-
applicant
haya
and the
que tener
neighborhood,
otra
just to make sure people
otra reunión
understand.
entre el aplicante y los
And maybe that can
vecinos,
happen
y quizá esto pueda ocurrir
soon.
If I
Pronto.
have his name, I'll make sure that he's contacted because we
Si
talk to every
usted
single
me da su nombre, me aseguraré que alguien está en contacto con ustedes, porque hemos hablado con cada uno de los inquilinos individualmente.
Sí, hablaron respecto a que cómo nos van a reubicar, cómo nos van a ayudar con mudanza, pero nunca hablamos respecto a los niños.
Yes, we spoke about how we're going to be relocated and how they're going to help us, but we never spoke about the children.
¿Cómo puede afectar esto a la escuela?
The children are all part of it.
How will this affect them?
I think that's a subject matter for a meeting between the
Creo que esto va a ser
the
un
residents and
asunto
also to
para
contact the
la
school
reunión
district.
entre
There may be
ustedes y
accommodations
ponerse en
for when you have to be temporarily
con la
removed,
escuela, quizá
leaving your children
pueda
in the school, so I would
que
recommend
se
contacting
pueda
the
hacer un
school
arreglo
as well.
temporal para que los niños puedan seguir acudiendo a la escuela.
Sí, solo porque escuchamos tantas cosas de todo el mundo, entonces no sabemos a quién creer.
Well, the thing is, we've heard so many things from different people, we don't know who to believe.
Well, this is the applicant,
Bueno,
so
este
he's
es el-
in charge. He's el
aplicante, él es el
jefe.
que está a cargo.
So you can believe what he
Usted
says.
puede creer en lo que él le diga,
Ok.
Okay,
¿ok?
all right.
Gracias.
Do you swear that the testimony you're about to give this evening is the whole truth to the best of your knowledge?
La verdad? Yes.
Could you provide her name and spell it, please?
¿Su nombre, por favor?
Es A-N-D-A, ¿cómo se dice? La E.
De su nombre.
Andrea.
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 Sí. Yo estoy un poco confusa
I'm a little confused
porque he escuchado muchos comentarios que dicen que sí nos van a ayudar, otros que sí nos van a buscar otra vivienda y otros pues que no se van a hacer responsables de nada.
because we've heard different comments that we're going to be helped, they're going to find us alternate housing, and others that say that they're not going to do anything.
Y pues yo pienso como familia que yo tengo a mi niño, a mi pareja y todo, pues es como un estrés para nosotros porque no estamos como que puede ser que mañana o dentro de un mes, dentro de 2 meses o cuando nos digan de un día a otro pues
As a
les salió otra
family,
cosa.
with my partner and my son, we are under stress, not knowing whether it's going to be, when this is going to happen, and they're telling us different things.
Entonces, lo que yo he venido pensando es de que si tanto es de que quieren remodelar nuevamente las casas de la Boy School y hay personas que viven en esas casas, ¿por qué no van y hablan con las personas que tienen comisiones como donde hacen casas aquí de parte de Princeton, de la municipalidad, del estado, que hagan como una excepción y que nos busquen una vivienda a todos los que habitamos en esas casas?
But if they're going to be renovating these homes, why don't they speak with people who are building homes around Princeton and find us a place to go, everybody that together?
Okay, if you could say, I think there will be another meeting
Bueno, creo que va a haber otra reunión
between
entre
Mr. Hillier's group
el grupo del señor Hillier
and the people who live
y
there
la gente que vive
to
ahí
make sure
para
people
asegurarse que
understand
la
the
gente
plan.
entiende el plan.
Right now, we don't know when this will happen because we have not approved it.
Va a ocurrir porque todavía no lo hemos aprobado.
And we are still, after this meeting, it's not approved. It has to go to another place
A otro lugar,
for another
para
decision.
otra decisión.
So after it is approved, then we'll know a lot more.
Vamos a saber mucho más.
Ok, sí, porque hay muchas familias aquí que viven que, como dijeron ayer, no sé cuándo, que la mayoría son hombres solteros cuando en realidad no es así. Hay muchas familias que tienen hijos y han nacido acá, en un momento pues van a ser ciudadanos aquí, le van a servir al país, deberían de pensar en los hijos.
Yes, but there's a lot of families living in these homes now. I think that yesterday was said that it was mostly single men, but there's a lot of families with children who will one day be contributing citizens.
Right. So I know nothing will happen in January and probably not in February.
Creo que
I don't
nada va a
know.
ocurrir
And
en
so
enero, ni tampoco en febrero.
there would be a meeting
Va a haber una reunión
at that time
en
to discuss, but right now we don't
pero ahora mismo
know
no
exactly.
sabemos exactamente.
And maybe you can
Quizá usted
give an idea later this.
Bob,
puede esto más
Yeah,
This
yeah.
meeting is just about historic architecture in the historic district.
histórica del distrito.
More specifics about the project, such as a timeline, et cetera, that is for the planning board and for after, if the project is even approved.
I think, Bob, if we get their phone number and name, that you will contact them directly, would that be okay?
Yeah, because we have repeatedly talked to every tenant at this point. And so if I can get their names,
Si me pueden dar los
I'll
nombres
contact them.
y yo me voy a poner en
Thank you
contacto
for
con
indulging,
ellos.
because according to
¿Puedo
the
escribir
chairwoman, this is one of the
su nombre y su
few
teléfono?
bodies in Princeton that meets in person, so this
Yeah.
might be really the only place that people felt they could come and find
Yeah.
information.
Elric, did you want to say something?
I think all of us in Princeton
Creo que todos aquí en
are
Princeton
very aware, and if not,
Estamos
should
muy
be aware, that this
conscientes
whole situation
toda
was
esta
played out
situación,
100 years ago with
fue
the
la misma
development
que
of Palmer
se
Square.
desarrolló hace
And
100
that,
años
and
con
that the
el
grievances
la
grievances
construcción
of
de
many of
Palmer
the people
Square.
who actually
Y las
live in
quejas
this area, the
la
Witherspoon
gente
Jackson
que
area,
vivía en esta
were
zona
affected by that, or their
fueron
families were
afectados por
affected
eso,
by
o
it.
sus familias
And with that in
fueron
mind,
afectadas.
I'm
Entonces,
sure
recordando
that
esto, estoy
we
segura
definitely don't want to see
que no
that,
queremos que
that hurt, that
que
personal hurt,
estos
replayed
este
again.
daño vuelva a
And so I
ocurrir.
think everybody here
Creo que
is
todos
with you
aquí
in wanting to make sure
queremos
that
asegurarnos
those concerns are
de
met
que
as soon as
estas
possible.
preocupaciones van a ser atendidas cuanto antes.
So we would like the contact
Nos
information.
gustaría la información de contacto.
Thank you.
Thank
Okay,
you.
thank you.
Gracias.
So would you like me to read this letter so that it's part of the record?
Okay.
Okay. As you review the plan that will be presented tonight, we urge you, and it's signed by a number of individuals, we urge you to weigh the impact it would have on the current residents of the properties under consideration and on the neighborhood in general. We understand that as the Historic Preservation Commission, your focus is on the past, but it should not be at the expense of the present. The buildings in question contain so-called naturally occurring affordable housing units and are the home to low and middle income households paying rents at the low end of the market, but unsubsidized by any government programs. As African Americans and previous waves of Irish and Italian immigrants did before them, these families settled in Princeton over the past 2 and 3 decades as part of the influx of working class Latino immigrants who have filled the lines of essential workers, serving the rest of us as cooks, nannies, gardeners, and masons during Princeton's more recent history. It's paradoxical that this plan proposes to turn the existing cluster of 34 homes, plus 4 commercial establishments serving the local community, into an architecturally stunning high-end enclave that will decrease missing middle housing, raise the average cost of housing in the downtown area of Princeton, and increase tax assessments in the neighborhood. This would exactly contradict the intended purpose both of the Princeton-Jackson Historical District designation and the affordable housing overlay zoning, as well as the goals of the recently updated Princeton Master Plan. We would be trading 34 homes currently accessible to low and middle income families for 15 income restricted units to which the current tenants would have no right to return. It would represent a net loss of 19 units at the cost of creating 55 market rate units, which based on prevailing market rates would be accessible only to high income individuals. What's worse, according to the architectural plans, roughly half of these units would be very small lofts or studios, and undersized 2 and 3 bedroom units specifically designed for occupancy of 1 to 3 people per unit, with a handful of exceptions. The new housing will attract the kind of transient single adult employees or academics, adding to the ongoing steady and irrevocable gentrification of this neighborhood that historically has been a refuge to working class Princetonians. I'll skip over the issues regarding the size of the affordable housing units, which appear to be out of compliance with the most recently adopted housing affordability controls. I'll also skip over this paragraph about the new legislation that provides for 2-for-1 credit when converting from market rent to affordable housing. The Princeton Master Plan recommends more housing density in the downtown area, but subject to not unduly altering the neighborhood fabric. The Witherspoon-Jackson Historic District Ordinance recognizes that this is a neighborhood that has historical, architectural, and cultural significance to the Princeton community. We need to look beyond shutters and paint and consider the impact on the people. It is the cultural significance, the very fabric of this neighborhood that is at risk if this plan were to go through without further consideration. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, thank you. Okay, come on up. Thank
I
you.
swear.
Do you swear that the testimony you're about to give this evening is the whole truth to the best of your knowledge?
Yes, I do.
Thank you.
My name is Dozier Hammond. I live on Lee Avenue. And I just want to say that I share a lot of the concerns that Maria has brought up. I realize that there's probably not a way to address all of them in the current project. But it was mentioned at the beginning that we need to keep a reasonable cost for the missing middle and diversity in the neighborhood. I also hope this project, through the things that are by the additional units that are being provided, does provide for both the missing middle and the working class, not just the missing middle, and that there are sufficient units to do that. I too worry about the fact that I realize these places have to be upgraded, have to be worked on, it's going to be expensive, and I realize there are cost considerations, very substantial ones to do it. But I also want to try to keep as much affordable housing, again, for the working class as well as the missing middle. The other thing is directly involved with what you're talking about are the bulk. I worry about the bulk that's being done there. Again, if it gets us more units, and especially if it gets us more affordable and missing middle units, I'm for that. I do think that the designs, to me, are a little bit kind of stark, where they show up behind the buildings. And in some of the views, it's true, for example, in the last development that's closer to Lytle Street, that if you look in front of the building itself, you cannot see the top of the new building in back. If you're on the left-hand side, though, you look down, you see a big building. Again, that may be necessary. I think some sort of setbacks might help, maybe some windows, I don't know. It may make it look so it isn't so bleak on that level. I do commend all the efforts on the historical parts of it, and I think you've done a great job, a lot of work to develop all that. That's all excellent. And to keep the fronts looking good, restoring them, really wonderful. But again, I want to make sure that it both helps the neighborhood out and does not reduce the affordability of the neighborhood to do it. It may be the only thing we have to do. We have to do a lot of that, but still, I want to make sure that it's in line with trying to keep as much affordable and missing middle in the neighborhood as possible. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any others who'd like to speak tonight? If not, I'm going to close the public comment. All right, let's get back to our deliberations. We had talked about the different points in Elizabeth's memo that we supported. We also talked about things we wanted the applicant to look at, and we do have a memo. And maybe, Tara, do you want to kind of summarize what you recorded from our conversation?
So based on last evening's meeting and perhaps supplemented by tonight, these were the recommendations that would be conveyed to the planning board via the commission's memo of endorsement of the project. The first is to review the massing of the new buildings in relation to the side streets and neighboring properties. And part of that, the commission would recommend that the planning board would require the applicant to provide some elevations to the neighboring properties on the side streets and some information concerning the use and the development on those properties. The second was to consider reducing the ceiling heights of the new residential buildings. The applicant had discussed during last night's hearing that maybe there was a way to reduce the ceiling heights between 6 and 8 inches because they were proposed to be over, close to 8 feet, a little over 8 feet in each of the units. Third was to review the structural reports to be provided by the applicant in order to determine whether the demolition proposed meets the standards of the AH07 zone. The commission has now received those reports, so the commission can look at those in relation to their own ordinances to make sure that the buildings proposed to be demolished do meet the standards, and then also just recommend that the planning board, as part of their review, make sure that those demolitions meet the standards set forth in the AH07 zone, because the AH07 zone does provide a requirement for retention of buildings where feasible. And then there was the general comply with the technical comments from the Historic Preservation Officer as set forth in her January 8th memo. Those included reducing the height of the proposed privacy fencing and installing supplemental landscaping. requiring wooden instead of vinyl fencing, revising the archaeological monitoring plan, requiring exterior lighting to be in a warmer spectrum, no greater than 2700 K is Kelvin.
Yeah.
I always get that one wrong. Providing a 10-foot setback for Site 3, which is to be known as Douglas Hall, from Quarry Street, from the Quarry Street right-of-way, and providing additional landscaping within such setback. Removing or lowering the height of the brick wall on Site 3 to be known as Douglas Hall. I think the applicant tonight discussed as part of the supplemental presentation that that was a consideration to replace that with landscaping. Revise the elevations of 184 Witherspoon to be accurate. Require landscaping in front of the fence between the parking lot and the community garden on Site 2. And then additional recommendations from the commission were to require coordination with a subcommittee appointed by the commission on the building restorations. Those members will be Endersby and Friedman. And then require the applicant to consult with the Witherspoon Jackson Historical and Cultural Society with regard to the naming of the buildings, and to review the landscaping plans in detail and update for consistency with the presentation at the commission meetings.
Thank you. And thank you for putting that together so quickly. It's really great. Yes, Elizabeth.
I did forget one other thing when I was reviewing that, which had to do with the variance, the setback variance, one for the buffer and one for the parking. I think that we had talked about that yesterday. And the other was if the HPC was comfortable talking about the property on 114, 116, which was that front porch with Mr. Hillier had talked about tonight again, that they wanted to be able to restore to the original open porch, but because of the AHO 7 ordinance, that they wouldn't be able to do that without going for a use variance.
But
And-
aren't they putting the soccer store in that one, or?
We're talking about the enclosed
Yeah, that's
porch
correct.
itself. Yeah.
Okay.
But we're-
So, I mean, I think there was a conflict with keeping commercial on the street.
But what Mr. Hillier said, that he was happy to keep it commercial, but retain the front porch.
Oh, okay. So the soccer store would have a front porch? Oh, okay.
They'd be changing location.
Okay, I got it. Okay.
So,
Catch-22 situation.
Yeah.
right. And obviously, that's just a recommendation that HPC can make as far as maybe considering modifying the ordinance to allow these type of changes, because they would have to go, I mean, I talked to Dan Weissman, the land use engineer, he says, it's a use change because they're allowing you to put housing in according to AHO 7. So it meets a certain criteria, which means retaining the primary facing structure. So if it's something that doesn't require demolition due to structural issues, but they want to restore it to the appropriate historic original character of it, obviously that's what HPC wants. And the applicant also wanted it, but because of the way the ordinance is written, he's not allowed to do it without going for a use variance. And if he goes for a use variance, that means he has to go for a variance for everything that is under the AHO 7. Which
Oh.
means all of the housing, all of
Yeah.
the parking.
And that's not
Right.
really acceptable.
So I just want to, it's because that one that has that
Enclosed
I'm going to call
porch.
it strange enclosed porch. It is, it does look a little odd on the street with all the open porches, but because they're going to move the soccer store from
No,
that?
that's got nothing-
because they
Okay.
wanted to take out the enclosure and make it an open porch, which was the original design
Right,
of
and
it.
then that requires a use variance because there will
They're
be
not
residential on
retaining.
the first floor.
No, because
that-
they're not
I mean,
retaining
I can
the,
explain it.
Okay.
It's so weird, it doesn't come easy. The way the AHO 7 ordinance is written, it says that you can't change the facades from at the time, the front facades at the time the ordinance was adopted. Well, that strange little store was, even though it's illegal, was there at the time the ordinance was adopted. And through a very, I think, strict interpretation of the ordinance, if we vary from that, the planning office has determined that we would need a use variance.
Right, and I think that should be explained at the planning board, because I don't think that is a positive thing in the overlay.
Right, so I think that that might be important to include in the memo. That's like what I was asking, if we could include that.
Yeah, a common sense, that's perfect. A common sense clause should kick in the overlay. Yeah, let's like not be stupid about this.
I have the bullet point list open on my computer, so I can kind of type in, so then we have a copy and paste. So this is, that building is 114 to 116 Witherspoon?
Bob,
Yeah,
what's
I
the
think so.
building?
Yeah. This one.
Okay.
I think it's 114, 116.
One-
Just 114?
114.
Okay, just
Okay,
114.
114. So would it be safe to say then that the HPC, would prefer to see that porch return to its historically accurate open porch?
Which was the intent of the applicant all along. However, he does not desire to go for a use variance.
Yeah, without having to deal with the
Without
use.
having to get a use variance?
Yeah.
Okay. I will see if I can word that a little bit better, but as long as I have the general gist of what we want here.
A question. The archaeological investigation is mentioned here, and we haven't heard about that. I'm reminded that Mr. Hines, for instance, used to talk about, when he was working at the livery stables where Palmer Square is now, he said those two maple trees in front of the post office, that's where the livery stable was. I'm interested, I know a lot of these buildings were wagon houses and storehouses and whatever. It would be interesting, because as you look at that map and you see how much that one area between John and Witherspoon was developed to the exclusion of so many of the other areas around it, more information would be very helpful. And who is responsible for archaeology? Has a firm been selected, or what's the?
It was Hunter,
So
right?
you use Hunter Research, right? That was the report that we received. And I assume that you'd be continuing with them, is that correct?
Say that again?
Hunter Research?
Hunter
Richard
Research is the
Hunter.
archaeologist you retained, right?
Yes, yes.
Yeah, and, yeah, they'll be doing the monitoring when.
Okay, so
Yeah.
you would contract with them. So
So-
we had a
We've had that
memo.
in a couple of cases when utilities are going down Kings Highway and whatever.
Right.
And then we've had a few people stop by once a week and kind of scuff their shoes, and it's not, I just want to make sure that there's a little bit more scrutiny.
Right, and that we don't get loads and loads of pottery, because that's happened before.
I think the one thing that they spoke about, the concern is the properties that were adjacent to the two churches, that they
Right,
weren't
and
sure
we've
if they were
agreed
going to
we
have
a
any
monitoring
burial
plan,
grounds.
And that's in Elizabeth's memo, and we
Right.
agreed to that.
Right.
So we're just recommending to, use the protocols for an archaeological monitor.
Right,
on-
but
on
and then I
site.
just wanted to share that there is some small headstones on the AMC church, so they might want to
Okay.
just take that into consideration.
All right. All right, do any members have suggestions or questions about the points that Tara has brought up tonight? And if, yes,
Well, the one thing that was brought up several times last night and just brought up again is the notion that there are so many of the single units, and we understand there are a lot of individuals who are going to need places to live within the community. But I am curious about, like that one house next to the school is going to be an independent house. How many other situations exist within this plan that address the fact that you're going to have families with 3 or 4 kids, for instance, and those individual units don't satisfy that sector of the community?
well, there's a number of units that are coming online in Princeton that are affordable. I don't know if the housing office would be involved with this, as well as human services. So I think we would want to ask the planning board to maybe have some kind of liaison to deal with the issue of the current families living in the area, that they have a place in the community available to them.
This is kind of beyond the purview of
Yeah,
this
I think
commission.
we really understood the situation, and we're just recommending.
Well, I think we can say, although beyond the purview of the Historic Preservation
Yeah.
Commission, we want to advise the planning board that this was brought up at our meeting, it will probably get brought up at your meeting.
If you do it that way, that
Yeah.
works.
Yeah, so we will be continuing this discussion. Yeah, Elizabeth?
So there was one question I had when Bob was doing his presentation today, so I don't remember if he said it yesterday or I missed it, but Bob, you talked about 150 Witherspoon Street, which is the one that you're totally demolishing and you're bringing it, so it's going to be, so you had mentioned that it's non-contributing, but it actually is contributing. It's just not on that list, I think. But it is a contributing, and when it's non-contributing, it does, just FYI, just when it's non-contributing doesn't mean that you can automatically demolish it. HPC still reviews for anything
But I think
within the
we made a
Witherspoon
pretty
Jefferson.
compelling case as to why it should be demolished.
Well, I think we'll probably look at the structural reports as well,
Yeah.
right? That'll probably address it. But I just wanted to make that clear. And also, 188 Witherspoon Street was the one that was actually non-contributing. And what I wrote in the report is, I think that's an error, because it clearly states it's probably
But we're
one of the...
not taking it down anyway.
Right, but just
Right.
for the record, I just wanted to know that that was the one that was listed as non-contributing, but I think that's an error, because it clearly, the only thing that they did was I think that's the one that has enclosed porch, and that's reversible. But otherwise, the building itself, pretty much retains its original character.
Okay. So as far as what we need to say to the planning board, are there any other suggestions or comments, questions? David?
I was going over some of the details, and I'm trying to understand the sketches that are made for the doorways on, I think it's 114. It says existing/proposed, and I can't tell what that label means. I think it's on sheet A515F.
Oh, yeah.
151A?
Does that mean they're going to be replicated? Yes? Okay. David, that means they're going to be replicated.
Then I don't understand the labeling.
So that the existing and the proposed will match identically.
Then why are they being changed?
Well, it's just showing that the existing looks like this, but I guess maybe the materials are damaged, and there needs to be,
Well, I guess we'd like some more information on that.
all right, so I guess when,
Because that goes back to a comment Elizabeth made also in her remarks. Why are all the porches being totally rebuilt?
yeah, so you're asking, why isn't it restored rather than replicated? Right?
Because everything's falling apart. I mean,
Right, so I think,
These are diagrams of the existing doors, and if they have to be replicated, this is a drawing for them. But on the other hand, it was also required that we show the existing I'm not sure, I can't say where this came from, but that we actually draw every one of the existing windows and doors.
Right, that is.
And we send out a crew for 6 weeks measuring every single window and documenting it.
I see. So it's going to be a field call as to whether it's good enough to restore or there needs to be a replacement.
We think all the windows need to be restored. The doors we're not quite so sure about.
You mean replaced, don't
Yeah.
you?
Yeah.
Not restored.
Replaced, not restored.
Yeah,
Okay.
I think the drawings call for insert windows on all of the
Yeah, they do.
existing, right? So that's what they're proposing. So again, obviously, we always ask for the existing to come propose, so we
Right,
know
so you're-
what
you're-
differential dimensions there are.
Correct. But your comment said, why are we replacing all of it?
Was there anything that could be repaired?
I mean,
or restored?
mostly, a lot of the windows there, you don't want to restore them because they're crummy aluminum windows. We're actually bringing it back to how it was historically. What's there now is
Right.
awful.
And actually, my question was about the doors. From walking by this summer and reading the posted notes that this building's going to have restoration done, some of the doors looked like they were still very solid. I didn't open
And
any of them.
I think it's a field decision. I mean, if to the extent that the door, and Bob, kick me if I get this wrong, but to the extent that the doors can be restored, they will be. To the extent that they're rotted or they just cannot be, then they'll be replicated.
Okay, can we put that in the memo?
I think we can do that. So we do have a recommendation that they be required to work with that subcommittee of the
Fine.
HPC on the
Fine.
restoration. So we can
Fine.
put specifically in there with regard to front porches, doors, and windows. They're all, right now, they're proposed to be replicated rather than restored. However, such decision will be made in the field and in consultation with that subcommittee.
That sounds good to me.
Okay, good. It's good to clarify. That's great, because that's what people want, is just sort of a clear understanding. Are there other points that anyone feels needs to be clarified, or are we pretty satisfied with this? And if so, is there someone who'd like to move to, I guess, endorse the memo that Tara's been reading? That we would send this on to the planning board?
I feel that this is a project that addresses so many issues, trying to accomplish a lot of goals, and I think it's an admirable job. And I think that if we have the memo, as we've talked about our concerns, I support the letter.
Thank you. And Frida, did you second that? Thank you. All right, we're going to have a vote. Yeah.
Mr. Shatskin?
Yes.
Ms. Howard?
Yes.
Mr. Endersby?
Yes.
Ms. Friedman?
Yes.
Mr. Shore?
Yes.
Chairperson Capizzoli?
Yes. Thank you so much for coming in.
Thank
for
you.
a beautiful presentation. Thanks to the commission members for being thoughtful and considerate. And we thank our attorney Tara for putting this together so quickly. And huge thanks to Elizabeth Kim for putting this report together, which was a monster. And I think kept her up way too long. So we appreciate everybody's efforts. And we hope we'll see you guys at the planning board, which is on Zoom, so you can watch it from home. And I think it's on the 23rd, is that right?
Is that right?
Okay,
That's correct.
so I'll be there, and I'll be explaining, and so will Elizabeth. So everyone will be there to support this.
I'd like to thank you all for your patience and for going through all the complications with us.
Well, we appreciate you too. All right. Is there anything other business we got to do? We got to do the subcommittees real quick? Okay. I don't even know what it says. Ugh. Who do we need on what subcommittee?
So we need to fill a position in the Kings Highway. We need to fill a position in the Princeton Battlefield State Park expansion. And we need the ordinance revision and demolitions, and I think master plan update is, we could probably take that up for now, right?
A quick
Okay.
question.
Oh, well, actually, I think we do have some revisions on that, but,
I gather by the blue highlighting that we've lost Tom Pyle on the commission?
That's correct.
Do we have any additions that are not here?
We have, we still have positions for alternates.
Julie, did you tell the mayor about the one applicant that we had talked about that we thought was a good?
I was in Spain.
That was not Bob, right? Is Bob available? Bob Craig?
It was the one who had historic preservation education, remember? We had three that we looked at.
Right, so we still haven't reached out to anyone, I don't think.
Okay, I think that the mayor was looking for the list because they did the appointment the other day. So let's circle back.
Okay, we'll circle back, but we are looking for an alternate or two. We have all our full members.
Two
but
alternates,
We just need an alternate. And by the way, Charlotte is now a full member, not, so you have to vote.
Okay, and so I guess we should still keep the master plan update because there are things that are coming back that still need to be tweaked. So we are short of one person on that.
Okay.
And also the Princeton, well, let's see, no, that's it. Those are the ones that we need some additional members. So the
Okay.
Kings Highway right now is Julie and David
For which one?
for Kings Highway.
Kings Highway, okay. Who else wants to do that one?
Roger,
David, do you want to do that because you live on the Kings Highway?
I think I'm already on it with you.
No, she's saying it's me and Alric.
Oh, I would like to.
Yeah, okay. Elizabeth, David wants to do it.
He's already on there.
Oh, I thought you said me and Elric were on there.
Oh, no, David and Julie.
Okay.
Sorry.
Who else wants to do that one?
I'll call you.
Charlotte, you want to do that one? Okay. Okay. So Charlotte's willing to do Kings Highway.
Great, okay. And then the second one's the Princeton Battlefield State Park.
Oh, the battlefield actually is very active.
Interpretive and Princeton signage.
And there will be a visitor center there eventually.
Right.
Am I already on that one?
Do you want to borrow the
I don't know, you might have a conflict.
I practically live on it.
Yeah, I know. I'm okay with you being on it.
and your jacket?
Is there anything going on with any of these?
Yeah, the battlefield there is. Yeah, battlefield definitely there is. There's a lot going on.
Anyone for that one?
For the battlefield?
Yes.
Well,
It's,
David, you're on it, I guess.
he's already on it and Roger's on it.
And Roger's on it? Okay, well, I could be on it because
Okay, great.
I'm involved with the Quaker meeting right next door.
Okay, then the other one is the ordinance revisions and demolitions.
Elric.
So Roger and David are on that. Elric, do you want to be on that?
No. How about Charlotte? Demolitions?
And ordinance revisions.
I could do that.
Or Frida? Frida said she'll do it.
And then we need one other person for the master plan update. Just to,
Okay. Well, then Charlotte can do that.
thank you.
Charlotte, it's a new full-time job.
I know, right?
And that's it. That's it.
All right, that's it? Okay. So does anyone want to approve the revised subcommittee list? Okay, Alric. Second? Charlotte? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried.
Beverly House in Cottage has appeared on this list for now 3 years. with the
We,
same notation.
we could take that off, I think. I mean, it's busy. Yeah, it's running. Yeah.
Are we still keeping Valley Road
Yeah.
School?
What's that?
Are we still keeping the Valley Road School?
I think we could leave it on there and see what happens.
Roger, did you want anyone else on your Public Education Committee? Is Charlotte on that with you? Okay,
They're doing a great job.
definitely. Oh, you know what that one was, Roger? Yours was a website. Did you want anyone else on that?
Not for the moment.
Okay.
Actually, our website is not bad. It's actually got a lot of good information.
Ian's been helping with that, so that's been very helpful.
Yeah, I'd like to see some mapping there, because that's
What kind of mapping?
like a good, user-friendly mapping of the districts.
Okay, so the map is up there. It's the only one we have, it's the official one, and you can blow it up when you have it on there.
It's static,
Yeah.
everything all at once.
Yes, so we also have a GIS that we've been working on to be able to go on there, and you can actually put your address or your lot and block, and then it'll bring you to your property, or, you know, someone is interested in purchasing or have any questions, they can do that, and it'll pop up to say what zone it's in, whether it's an historic district, but they've been working on that for a while, but
All right. Do we have any other business items? Okay.
Sorry, the existing map is missing a lot of street, after they're
they don't put an Eastern, because I think when they made it, it was at a scale, so, yeah, I try to get that on there. It's difficult, yes.
Yeah.
We can ask.
All right. So our next meeting is when?
Early, I think it's like February 3rd.
Oh, right, February 3rd? And
Hold
can you
on.
just give us a heads up what we might expect?
Well, right now, we don't have anyone on that agenda. I think it was February 3rd, yeah. We don't have anyone on the agenda for now.
Okay. So if we don't have any agenda,
But it is only the 9th.
yeah, it's pretty early. Okay. Anyway,
All meetings are at 5 now, in this room. I think that's one of the reasons that we had it on the 3rd, because the 7th is a holiday, and I believe that the council had it on the 10th. So we didn't have much of a choice. It was either the 3rd or the 24th, and I think that the 24th was problematic for, I don't remember why, but.
all right.
I have one concern, that is Charlotte and I are going to be on the subcommittee reviewing what we've been doing here for the last couple of days. I'm leaving, and it looks to me like there are going to be a lot of issues that we didn't necessarily anticipate.
I don't think they're going to
somebody-
be starting until, like, actual construction for a while.
Yeah, so
Oh, okay, I thought this was, okay.
they got to go to planning board on the 23rd.
Oh, wow.
All the doors and windows.
3 years?
I think it's going to be a couple of months. They're going to have planning board, they're going to have to get the findings of facts a month
Yes.
afterwards, and then they'll probably have to update their drawings.
Okay.
And I'd send it to you by email.
So is there a motion to adjourn so we could let Tara get off?
Please.
Okay. All right. Alric has a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. David seconds. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Okay. You're free. Thank you so much.
And we didn't make an announcement again that Tara St. Angelo is HPC's new conflict attorney. So sorry that we didn't make that publicly, and yet yesterday's meeting. So in any case, but welcome, and